When you use Unix for your projects, you would be using Unix for developing programs or maybe writing test scripts or doing some administration work on it or even maintaining it. In all these activities, you will be interacting with various components of Unix. You will be interacting with them and even configuring them and doing some settings so that it works the way you want it to work. To do this, you should first be aware of the various components that are there on Unix. In this lecture, let's look at the various components that make up Unix. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to identify different components of Unix. You should get an overview of Unix kernel. You should understand Unix applications and shell. Let's start with the overview of Unix. Central to the Unix operating system is the hardware. The hardware like the central processing unit, the CPU, your RAM, hard disk, keyboard or even your screen and various other peripherals. The software that makes us access these hardware components is the operating system, or in Unix parlance it is called the kernel. Kernel helps us interact with the hardware. Users interact with the Unix system using various applications. The first application that they interact with is the shell or the command line interface. This is the program that interprets the commands that the user gives. It converts these commands into programs that access the kernel, and through this kernel they interact with the hardware. So the user commands finally get executed as operations on the hardware. So you could give something like a print command and the printer prints the document for you. All this is done through the shell, the command line interface for the user. Apart from this, you have various applications like the X window, which gives you the graphical user interface. You have other applications like the spreadsheets, databases, text processors, even browsers for browsing the web and internet, and compilers and various other development applications that you can use for creating software on Unix. Now let's take a closer look at each of these components. Let's begin with the Unix kernel. The Unix kernel is the ringmaster of the Unix system. It is central to all the applications that run on Unix. Unix kernel has a modular architecture. It has various modules that interact with specific devices on the system, and all of these modules work together to give the user a simple and consistent interface. Some very important modules of the kernel are like the process management, which is used for creating processes. Scheduler and memory manager also assist in process management. The kernel also maintains a very good interface for accessing files on the system. The kernel is also responsible for having the machines communicate with each other using its networking module. These are some of the important components of a Unix kernel. Now let's look at the Unix application layer. Unix application layer is made up of various Unix commands and utilities that we can combine to get the data in the form that we are interested in. It helps us represent data in a much more meaningful manner for us. Application layer also consists of compilers, other programs like browsers and the X window system that help us interact with the system and also build programs on the system. So application layer helps us develop software on Unix. The Unix shell is the user's interface to the system. It is the Unix shell that helps us interact with the system. It is a command interpreter that interprets the commands given by the user. It also provides a programming environment wherein we can write programs that have solutions for problems that are repetitive in nature. You can also write various scripts to automate all the activities on a shell. At the end of this lecture, let's have a quick summary of the important points that we have discussed. The Unix kernel is the heart of the operating system. Unix applications provide the foundation for developing software on Unix. Unix shell is the interface between a user and the Unix system.